Well, first up tonight, Ghana's economy expanded by 3.9% in the second quarter of this year, according to provisional figures from the Ghana Statistical Service. This gross domestic product growth rate was driven by a strong pickup in the services and agri sectors. The health and social work, information and communication technology, hotel and restaurants, as well as fishing subsectors expanded significantly. The industrial sector, however, contracted by 4.3%. There is more in this report.
This growth is a significant jump from the rate recorded in the previous quarter, as well as same time last year when the economy contracted by 5.7%. The current growth rate, driven by over 11 percentage points in the services sector, is attributed to activities in trade and communication technology.
And the growth that we saw in the services sector was largely driven by health and social work that grew by 22% on a year-on-year basis, but because it has a relatively lower share compared to trade, repairs of vehicles and household goods, they contributed more to the 11% that we saw in the services sector. So the two main subsectors in the services sector that drove the 11% growth that we saw in the services sector were trade, repair of vehicles and household goods, and information and communication, although their year-on-year change was relatively smaller than what we saw in health and social work.
The contraction in the industrial sector has been consistent since the outbreak of the pandemic, although it grew marginally in the first quarter of the year. Agriculture followed the services sector with a 5.5% growth. Professor Kobuna Inim hinted that, but for the contraction in the extractive sector, the economy could have performed better than the 3.9%.
I mean, essentially, as I indicated, is the contraction in the oil and gas of about 10.7% that led to the 3.9. Otherwise, would have seen a much bigger growth for the second quarter of 2021. I mean, the main source of the slow growth, that is the 3.9, was driven by oil and gas. So if you're talking about non-oil GDP, then services 11% and agri 5.5% would really have pushed the growth rate much higher than 3.9.
When seasonally adjusted, Ghana's raw GDP increased by 0.9% in the quarter.